This is a video showing you how to rebuild the carburetor for a TRX 2.5 engine. But before we get started, there's a few things that you're going to need. You can use this guide just as a how-to on cleaning your carburetor. However, I am going to be rebuilding it, so I'm going to be using TRX's part 5247 to replace all the O-rings. And since the carburetor I have is rather beat up and old, I'm also going to be replacing the carburetor body, which is part number 5234. The tools that you're going to need in order to get this done is a 4-way wrench that TRX's provides with you when you buy your model, a small flathead screwdriver, a 1.5 and 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench or hex screwdriver, and a pair of pliers. For the cleaning supplies, I highly suggest that you get some coffee filters for this. They're cheap, durable, and above everything else, they are lint free. You want nothing in the carburetor after you're done working with it. Anything in the carburetor is going to go into the engine, and you don't want that to happen. However, if you have no access to coffee filters for any reason, you can use paper towels. I'm also going to be using Q-tips. For the cleaning chemicals, I'm going to be using rubbing alcohol and WD-40. After you're done working on the carburetor, you can use some nitro RC after run oil to re-lube it. However, WD-40 will do just as well. The last thing that you're going to need is a pencil and paper or a camera. The camera has to have an LCD screen so you can see the picture after taking it. If you don't have that lying around, you can easily just use your cell phone if it can take pictures. Once you have everything ready, then you can go ahead and begin. However, I'm going to claim this right now. I am not liable for any damage or harm that you cause to yourself or your RC. If you're not sure about what you're doing or you don't have enough confidence in doing this right, then don't do it. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin. Now I'm going to go ahead and take off the air filter. If you have a wire tie in there, go ahead and cut it off, but it does need to be removed. After that, we need to go ahead and remove the carburetor itself. On this side, you'll notice that there is a 3mm nut. What you're going to do is go ahead and loosen that up. Now remember, all you have to do is loosen that nut. You don't have to remove it. Now you're just going to go ahead and jiggle it back and forth and pull it on out. The first step is removing the high-speed needle. All you have to do is turn it counterclockwise until it comes out. Now if you want to go ahead and record what position it is, tighten it by hand until you can't tighten it anymore. You don't want to screw it really hard in, but count the turns as you tighten it. When it stops, mark that down and then you'll be able to adjust it to how it was before. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and set it back to the stock setting. Once you remove the needle, go ahead and set that in a safe place, and then you're going to get your camera. You're going to hold the carburetor just like this and take a picture. Now the thing that you're going to be taking a picture of is this fuel intake, because once you remove this brass piece, this will be able to be rotated in any direction. Now if you don't have the camera, just go ahead and use a piece of paper, draw a circle, and then a line of which direction the fuel intake is, because you are going to want to know the original position of that so you can put everything back together the way it was. So you're going to use your pliers, unscrew this brass piece, and yes, you will see that there is a metal washer on top, this piece of plastic intake, and then another metal washer on that side. Now that you got rid of that, it's time to go ahead and take out these two screws. Those are removed with the 2.5mm Allen wrench or hex screwdriver. Once you remove these two screws, you're going to realize that these are just different positions for you to go ahead and mount your fuel intake. Just remember which hole that your fuel intake went into, because it could be different for your RC. Now it's time to move on to this side of the carburetor. You're going to go ahead and pull out your camera again and take a picture just like that. If you don't have the camera, just use a piece of paper and mark a line of the position that this arm is in, because once you take it off, well, it'll be able to be put into any position. So you're going to get your 1.5mm Allen wrench or hex screwdriver, and you're going to loosen the grub screw that's on the bottom. Now you're going to slide this arm off. Next, it's time to remove the low idle needle, which literally is just going to be turned counterclockwise until it comes all the way out, just like with the high speed. Once you remove the low speed needle, you're going to move on to the idle speed, and you're going to go ahead and remove it the same way. Just turn it counterclockwise until it comes all the way out. Once you remove that screw, you can go ahead and move on to this blue boot, and all you're going to do is literally pull it off. Now it's time to focus onto this spring. you're going to use your nail and literally just go ahead and pry it off. Once it's completely off, you'll be able to pull this piece right on out. And now you finally have the carburetor body. So at this time, go ahead and clean all the pieces using rubbing alcohol, and you want to make sure that you clean it very thoroughly. Do not get anything in here. Like I mentioned earlier, anything that's in your carburetor is going to go into your engine, and that could damage it. Now, another thing that you're going to want to do is check the whole carburetor body to make sure that is in good shape, because if there's any cracks in it, you're definitely going to want to replace it. As you can see, this carburetor body does have a crack in it. It's a good thing I have a replacement body. Now it's time to go ahead and after you clean it, put everything back together. So if you bought the rebuild kit, you're also going to want to replace the seals that are on all the needles. In order to do that, they do provide you with these little copper tubes. You slide the needle into position and then you just put the seal on the base, slide it up and all the way into the area that it needs to go. Just like that. Also, if you have the rebuild kit, you're going to want to replace this seal that's inside of there. Once everything is clean and the seals are in place, it's time to go ahead and put it all back together. One key note, make sure that everything is bone dry. You don't want any rubbing alcohol left over in there. Now, once everything is back together, then you can go ahead and add some WD-40 or some after run oil. So the first thing we're going to start off is with this piece. And you'll notice that there is a groove only on one side. That one side is where the idle screw goes. So you're going to go ahead and line that up with this hole. Once you do that, you're going to get the idle screw, which is the only silver one, and you're going to slide that in position and then tighten it all the way down. Then you're going to go ahead and set it back to how it was or to the stock setting. In case you're wondering what the factory setting is for the idle screw, basically what you're going to want to have is a 1 to 1.5 millimeter gap right here. That's roughly about loosening this screw 1 3/4 turn after tightening it all the way. Once you're done with that, you're going to want to move on to the spring. Now you can see that there is a small little bend in the spring. You're basically going to want to go ahead and set that into that gap. And me, I usually just go ahead and use my nail and push it right back into the groove. Just like that. Now we can go ahead and reattach this blue seal. This blue seal has a lip to it, and what you're going to want to do is fit that over this lip right here. Once you have the seal back on, it's time to reattach the low speed needle, and you're just going to go ahead and screw it all the way in and all the way down. Be sure not to over tighten it, otherwise it could damage the tip of the needle. Once it's down all the way, go ahead and unscrew it 1 3/4 turn. That is factory setting. And then after that you can go and adjust it to how you want it to be. Once that needle's taken care of, it's time to reattach this arm. So go ahead and look at that picture and make sure that you get it back to the position that it originally was in. Then go ahead and tighten the grub screw on the bottom. Now it's time to go ahead and move on to the other side and reattach the 2 screws that seal the optional areas for you to put in your fuel intake. Once those are back in place, it's time to move on to this copper piece. So what you're going to want to do is put a washer on, followed by the fuel intake, and then followed by another washer. And now you're just going to go ahead and screw it into the carburetor. And this is when you need to go ahead and reference your picture to make sure that the fuel intake is in the right position. Also, be sure not to over tighten this brass piece, otherwise you could crack the carburetor. The bottom part is made of metal, but a lot of the other parts are made of plastic, and you can break it while over tightening screws. Now that that's taken care of, the last step really is just screwing in the high-speed needle. Now what you're going to want to do is the same thing that you did with the low-speed needle. Screw it all the way down, except this time you're going to loosen it 2.5 turns. That is factory setting. After that, go ahead and set it to how you want to get the optimum performance. Remember, don't over tighten it. It could damage the needle inside. Now that the carburetor has been cleaned and rebuilt, you can go ahead and reattach it to the engine. Just slide it back into position, push it all the way down, tighten down that 3mm nut, reattach the air filter, and put the whole engine back onto your RC, and you are done. I hope this video helped you out, guys, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.